So hi everyone, so we're going to do a little tutorial on a little poppy field. So we've got a range of colours here. You don't have to use all of these. I think the important ones are the red and the greens. You can choose to do whatever colour sky you want in the same technique that I'm doing. I just wanted to show you that you don't always necessarily have to have a blue sky, so I was going to play around with that a little bit. But this is just a really nice, quick and easy one, and it's very effective, so it's a nice one to do. So I'm going to be using my small little pointed brush as usual, and also my flat-headed brush here, which is really good for skies really. So I've got like a little cloth here that I just clean my brushes on there. I tend not to use too much terps because it sort of thins everything down a little bit. So this is a really nice one to do. It's quite easy, and it's good to sort of do it in stages. So the first thing we're going to do is just put a horizon in. So you can either choose to have more sky and work on the sky more, or you can have more of the foreground. It's up to you. So I'm going to sort of have it maybe about half a half, just over half. So I'm just going to put in a very faint mark there. I'm also going to sort of have an idea of where the sort of tree line is going to be. The reason I'm doing this is that if we just paint the sky on there, what it'll do is it will have a load of paint on here, and all we're going to do, we're just going to sort of make a bit of a muddy mess. So if we kind of try and keep the sections separate, it's a lot easier to work on. So we can kind of forget about that bit now and have a go at the sky. So your sky doesn't have to be blue. I always like working with different colours. So this is magenta, which is a brilliant colour. Now you can see I've hardly put any paint on there at all. It's absolutely tiny. I mean, this is the amount of paint that I'm putting on my palette for you, and I always end up with paint left. So you don't need very much. So I'm going to kind of cover the sky with this magenta, but a very thin layer. I'm just going to really basically go around where these shrubs, these sort of trees in the distance are going to be, because they're going to be green and we don't want lots of colours underneath. So you can see I'm moving my brush in different directions. It's quite dry, the paint. You'll be sort of tempted to kind of put some terps in it or something to loosen it up, but try not to if you can, because once we've got it on there, it's quite dry. You can either add a bit of white, which will really sort of bring it to life. I don't add any more white on at that point. I'm actually going to take some of that off, and then we're just going to really quickly blend that in. The reason I put the white in the middle is just because it's a sort of a light source, which is what we're after. We don't want it to be white all over, because we want that sort of nice magenta showing through. So at the moment, that's our sky. And then we're going to come to the very bottom. So we're doing the sort of two edges, and I'm going to have a layer of grass at the bottom. So this time your brush stroke is coming straight down. Now this is Viridian that I'm using here, but you can use any dark green. The reason I like Viridian is it's very dark, but as soon as you add white to it, it becomes very rich. I mean, you can see the white in there. It's a really lovely colour. So we're going to come up maybe about a third, but again, I'm not going to put a lot of paint on because I don't want to kind of for it to turn out too muddy. And all this at the minute is just a guide for where things are going to be, and you can add to it later on. So I'm just going to add a little bit more at the bottom just to make it a little bit darker, like that. And then the trees at the top are going to be green as well. So just again with this sort of flat brush, it's really nice because you can kind of get nice shapes with it. You sort of think that you'd want to be more delicate, but sometimes it works out better if you just kind of go for it. Now this bit here is going to catch the white, which is good because it's just like the light sort of hitting that part of the trees. Again, you just add a little bit at a time. a bit darker down at the bottom. So you can see already, especially with the canvas being red, the kind of images come in. Now it's really important that this looks like it's in front of the sky. So if there's any colours kind of showing through, just add a little bit more on top. If you want to make it a little bit more opaque, you can add a bit more white in there. It sort of brings it forward, but if you've done it so it's too light, you can add a bit of dark. Now a good tip for this is to add a bit of purple to the bottom, and what that does is it just kind of makes it a little bit heavier at the bottom, which is what we're after. So we've just sort of basically got our tree line in there. You're just using your brush really, really lightly, and it just sort of skims over. And you can kind of keep going back and forward with this. So you sort of think, oh, I've messed it up. It's fine, just paint over it. So I'm going to have that bit really light there. So this light's going to hit down here, so we're just going to have a little tiny bit down here. Quite erratic, so it looks like grass. And then I'm going to clean my brush just on here. And then I'm going to get a lot of this red paint. Now, I'm always saying don't use very much paint, but this is the part where you want to use quite a lot. So this red here, in theory, it shouldn't really get too dirty because there's nothing underneath. So I want you to have a really nice, confident stripe of red across the top. Now, if it hits that green or that purple, it's fine. You're just going to keep going over it so it's nice and bright at the top. So you're almost using your brush sideways for this part, and then as you come down, you're going to just start to bring it into that green, and it will hit the green and it'll go darker, but that's fine because then it gets brighter as it goes up. And then we're going to get a tiny, tiny bit of white, and you can work it into the red first, where you just put it in. You don't sort of work it in, you just layer it on top, and then when we come to sort of skim it across like that, you'll get that light. So I'll do that again. So you just place it where you want it to be, and then just very, very lightly get that in. Now we're going to change brushes at this point. What I'm going to do, because I always love to do this on my paint, is because I've got a bit of red on my paint, on my brush, sorry. I'm just going to add a little bit of red in the sky, just because it makes it look a bit sort of, tiny bit of contrast can make all the difference. So that's that. So then now with this little one, go back to the red, and you can just put a few little marks. You don't have to be too delicate about it. And what that does is it just sort of looks like that's your poppies coming down. Now if you've got a bit of time, which we've all got a lot of time, you can do some with a few more shapes at the bottom. Just so, because obviously with perspective, the bigger ones are at the bottom, and then they get smaller as they go away. So you could have some big ones down here. And remember, you're doing this in one go. This is a sort of a one-shot painting. So if you want to, once this is dried, you can go over it again, make it a little bit brighter. So a little touch, tiny, tiny touch. I've probably got too much white on my brush there. I'm just going to add a little bit up here. So the poppy's down at the bottom. If you add just a tiny bit of white, so if you put it on the poppy first, on all the poppies, tiny bit at a time. So it's almost all the light hitting all those poppies. And then you just want to very, very carefully, slightly blend them in, just so they don't look like you've just gone over it with bits of white, like so. And then this bit here, I'm going to make a little bit darker, just because I want a little bit of contrast between the red and the trees, and you can do that with your smaller brush, like so. I think I'm going to have a little bit more green in here. I went a bit mad with the white. And then to finish off, we're just going to have a couple of lighter green stems, which just sort of stops this bit looking so flat. So you can mix a little bit of green with white and then just go in there like that. And you can add other colours as well if you wanted to. Add a little bit of yellow, that always looks nice. A little hint as well, sometimes of a bit of blue, can look quite good. Don't know if you can hear my son Elliot in the background, I'm not sure what he's doing, but he's laughing. And then a little bit of blue in the trees, and then basically there is our little poppy field. I'll just move this cloth and then you can see it. There you go. All done. Okay, take care everyone. Bye.